The Associated Press reports Vice President Mike Pence has met with some of the frontrunners to replace Justice Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court. The top contenders are said to be federal judges Amy Coney Barrett of Indiana, Brett Kavanaugh of Maryland, and Raymond Kethledge of Michigan. President Trump will reportedly choose his nominee by Sunday and is scheduled to make the choice public Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Joining me now from Boston is Michael Graham. He is a CBSN political contributor, Boston Herald columnist, and politics editor for NHJournal.com. Michael, great to see you again. Let's start with the Supreme Court. Okay. What do we know about the finalists, and what kind of confirmation process will he or she face?
Well, I think that the key thing that we know is that Judges Kethledge and Kavanaugh have extensive records at the appellate court, and it gives them the background, the onus. There's been some concern from conservatives that they don't want to get Soutered again. David Souter was picked by George H.W. Bush because he had no record, and they thought they could get him through the Senate, and it turned out that if he had a record, it would have been to the left. Yeah. So they want to make sure they've got somebody who's got a proven record. Judge Coney Barrett, she just went through the process to go to the appeals court last year. She was picked by President Trump, so she's just been through the fire, and some people say that's a bonus. Other people say, no, she doesn't have enough of a record. They want to see the record, even though she's from Notre Dame. She seems to be conservative. The word you hear from people on the right is originalist. They want people to interpret the Constitution based on what the words meant to the people who passed it, right. Not a living Constitution where you kind of decide what you need to be the outcome to be and go that way. But I would say two things. One is all of the buzz is that Kavanaugh is the front runner, the guy that Trump's going to pick. So I assume that means he's not. Right. Because that's how Trump works.
That's right.
Well, let me just add something.
Okay.
Kethledge has gotten really interesting. The last really 12 to 18 hours, things have started to turn around because the phrase I'm hearing about him is he's Gorsuch 2.0. He has a very similar background. They both clerked with Justice Kennedy. They're kind of a similar view. And you look at the reward that Donald Trump got for the Gorsuch pick. Even people who are really mad about President Obama not getting a pick that last 9 months in office and really mad about Merrick Garland, they concede that Judge Gorsuch is just a really good, smart, capable judge. And Trump has gotten a lot of bipartisan credit for the quality of that pick, separate from the political fights.
Right.
And you wonder if he can get the same thing from Judge Kethledge, if the same people who did such a good job with Gorsuch and getting him through are backing him, that makes me wonder, might he be moving to the top of the list?
But I don't know that Democrats would say that, just following in Gorsuch's path would be such a great idea, because he's pretty reliably a conservative member of the court. So they might still have a little bit of issue with that.
Obviously, they want a ruling. They want rulings like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. My point is that Gorsuch is a quality nominee, setting aside the politics. He makes the court. He's right. He belongs on the court. There's no question. Judge Coney Barrett, for example, once again, she just got to the appellate court about a year ago. Not a lot of mileage. Not a lot. She hasn't been tested a lot at the bench. So I think that's going to play into it. But the flip side, though, is, because she is a woman, and that's going to raise the identity politics fight, because she's a mom of 7 kids, she's Catholic, because the Democrats cannot resist attacking her Catholicism, as it happened when she came up for the appellate level. Judge Feinstein did not come out of that particularly well. A lot of questions were raised about inappropriate religion tests. If Trump wants to have a cultural war fight, which is where he lives, he picks Judge Coney Barrett and lets that, and then sits back and watches the politics.
Well, speaking of where the president lives, we know his social media habits pretty well. So is there a likelihood that he just won't be able to resist announcing the nominee before Monday night?
So I don't know. I mean, he's announced the time. I'm always uncomfortable psychoanalyzing this president, but I'll put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't announce it, but he starts like texting things like,
clues.
Hey, exactly, it rhymes with Bethledge, something like that, or hey, Notre Dame fans, you're going to be happy, or something, things like that.
Just to keep everybody glued to his Twitter account.
That's who he is.
Right,
can I ask you something? This is an interesting question I've been noodling around the last couple weeks. I may write about this for CBS coming up. Who wants to be the president that follows Donald Trump as president, not policy and foreign policy, but the way he does the presidency. He has turned it into a show.
Yeah, that's
true. And many of us don't like that. I like nice and boring. Scott Walker was my guy, the governor of Wisconsin, who shows up with a lunchbox and he eats his little carrot sticks and he just does the job. How do you go back to a president like that? Someone who's buttoned down and I'm just here to do the work after you've had 4 or 8 years of showbiz. I would not want to be the person.
This 24/7 president is kind of the zeitgeist. You're absolutely right on that count. But back to the Supreme Court. Depending on who President Trump announces as his nominee, opponents may accuse him of trying to pack the court. You have a new column coming out Monday addressing that. How do you view that argument?
Well, so the real court packing issue has been raised by some people on the left, in Harvard law school faculty, et cetera, who say, look, the Trump presidency is so ahistoric. He is so awful, so unacceptable, that we should not have to be governed by a court that he picked. And so what they're urging is at some point in the future when there's a Democratic president, that let's say the court is 5-4 conservative at that time, that they should appoint, say, 3 more judges, all on the left, so they can override the Trump court because the Trump court will be illegitimate because Trump. And I think this is such a huge mistake. The one thing that has impressed me about the Trump years so far is how relatively well our institutions have done. I mean, take the example of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court hasn't backed down from confronting Donald Trump. The travel ban had to go back again and again because the judges said, look, you're not getting it done. The judiciary as a whole they haven't been cowed by Trump. He hasn't intimidated them with tweets into ruling his way. He gets ruled against all the time, just like President Obama did. You look at the way Congress has worked. Congress has passed some stuff Trump wanted, like the tax cuts. They have failed to pass things Trump wanted, like the repeal of Obamacare and some of his other ideas. One of the issues he's having with tariffs is Congress may step in. He's feeling the pressure already that Congress may pull the power back from him. They may get into that fight. My point is, the institutions we have, from the Supreme Court to the Congress to the media, which, oh my gosh, if I see one more story about a reporter, Trump is picking on me, boo-hoo-hoo, I feel like I'm oppressed. No president has ever gotten the level of negative press that Trump has. The press has not quieted down at all. They've been out wailing away, doing their job. These institutions are stronger than Trump. And what I think people are going to look back on and regret are those times that politicians decided to take drastic action. Court packing would be crazily drastic. Or think about Harry Reid, so frustrated that he couldn't get 60 votes for President Obama's picks that he broke the longstanding rule about how you run the Senate. What did that do? That handed the opportunity to Republicans when Mitch McConnell took over, and now you're going to have a Supreme Court justice approved with 51 votes instead of the 60 because Harry Reid and the Democrats lost faith in the institution. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how you feel about Trump. Yeah. I promise you, our democracy, our Congress, our media, our courts, we're stronger than any one president, and these radical steps to fight him will in the end do far more damage than President Trump would do if we just stand by our institutions.
You have a very good point there. All right, switching topics. The president is facing some criticism for these remarks he made about Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren Thursday night during a campaign-style rally in Montana. I'm going to play them.
You know those little kits they sell on television for $2? Learn your heritage. I'm going to get one of those little kits. And in the middle of the debate, when she proclaims that she's of Indian heritage, because her mother said she has high cheekbones. That's her only evidence, that her mother said she had high cheekbones. We will take that little kit and say, but we have to do it gently. Because we're in the Me Too generation, so we have to be very gentle. And we will very gently take that kit and we will slowly toss it, hoping it doesn't hit her and injure her arm, even though it only weighs probably 2 ounces. And we will say, I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
All right, Michael, could those comments come back to haunt the president in the future?
Has any comment ever come back to haunt this? It would come back and haunt a normal president, a traditional president. This is more of Trump's shtick. It's back to that question: do you want to be the next president who goes to a rally to talk about tax policy and people are expecting jokes and punchlines and scenarios of throwing stuff at people? I also, if President Trump, if you're watching, lay off Liz Warren. You're punching down. I obviously cover her quite a bit here in New England and in Boston. I've written about the Native American issue. It's almost certain she has no Native American background. It's almost certain that she did, in fact, misrepresent herself at law school. But, you know, that's been adjudicated by the voters of Massachusetts. Punching down is not a win. I would also say that the problem with the Liz Warren story isn't her blood or a DNA test. It's the fact that she's never lived her life as a member of a minority. She grew up as a nice white lady in a white suburban community in Oklahoma. That's how she lived. Even if she had some, 5% DNA of whatever, that's not what the issue of affirmative action is about. Affirmative action is about trying to undo wrongs other people suffered. I think President Trump will be on it. This doesn't serve him in any way. It's good for a couple of laughs at a rally where people are friendly. Long term, not a good move.
Yeah, a little mean-spirited. All right.
Definitely.
All right, Michael Graham, once again, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.